In a quiet town, a young Korean woman begins a new job as a handmaiden to a reclusive Japanese heiress. But behind the grand mansion's gates lies a world of deceit, twisted desires, and buried secrets. What starts as a sham spirals into something far more dangerous and intimate. If you're into twisted love stories, betrayal, and brilliant plot twists, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps like this. The story begins with a young Korean woman bidding farewell to her family. Her name is Okju, and she's leaving to serve in an unfamiliar world as a handmaiden to a wealthy Japanese heiress. After a long journey by car, Okju arrives at an imposing Western-style mansion tucked deep in the countryside. The estate is massive, elegant, and eerily quiet. She's greeted by the stern headmaid, Sasaki, who wastes no time showing her around, laying down the house rules and stating her limits in the house. Okju's primary role is to serve the heiress, Lady Hideko, in every way she needs. Sasaki tells her that the heiress's chamber is right opposite her bed space. Out of curiosity, Okju tries to listen in, but a sudden thudding sound from the room startles her. Frightened, she quickly retreats to her sleeping quarters. It's already late, and her new mistress has gone to bed. But her rest is interrupted when she's jolted awake by a piercing scream echoing through the halls. Rushing toward the sound, she finds Hideko trembling from a nightmare. The lady explains that her aunt once hanged herself from the cherry tree just outside the mansion. It's a haunting first impression, but Okju calmly soothes her, easing her back to sleep. The next morning, as Okju prepares for a proper introduction, one of the maids plays a prank and hides one of her shoes. So she's forced to greet Hideko awkwardly wearing one pair of shoes. But the frail, frightened woman from the night before is now poised and stunning, every bit the refined aristocrat. Okju presents Hideko with a letter of recommendation from her former mistress. Curious, Hideko asks her to read it aloud, only to discover that Okju can't. She's illiterate. However, Hideko doesn't care much about her education. What she values is honesty and diligence. Noticing her missing shoe, Hideko gifts her a fresh pair from her personal collection. She then excuses herself for a reading lesson and tells Okju to return at noon. From that small act of kindness, Okju believes there's more to this mysterious woman than her cold exterior suggests. Left alone in her room, curiosity gets the best of Okju. She explores Hideko's wardrobe, trying on jewelry and clothes with quiet fascination. It's clear she's never been surrounded by this much luxury, and for the first time, she allows herself to enjoy it. Later, Okju makes her way to the study, where she catches a glimpse of the mansion's master for the first time, Uncle Kuzuki. But before she can step inside, the doors are shut in her face. She's not allowed in. The abruptness startles her, and something about the man gives her an uneasy feeling. She notices his tongue is stained black. Something Hideko later explains is from his bizarre habit of licking ink. Though Hideko is fully Japanese, Kuzuki is Korean, once married to her now-deceased aunt, the same one who died by suicide at the cherry tree. With no parents in the picture, he oversees the household, despite Hideko being the rightful heir. Kuzuki, now wealthy thanks to his collaboration with the Japanese, is obsessed with rare books and antique manuscripts. He hoards them like treasure, building his fortune and his power through them. After the reading, Hideko prepares for an important visitor and asks Okju to run her a warm and scented bath. As she helps her in the bath, Okju is quietly captivated by Hideko's beauty. There's a bit of tension in the air. Okju is drawn to her, but quickly composes herself. Although shocked, Okju doesn't hesitate when Hideko asks her to join her in the bath. Soon, their guest arrives. Count Fujiwara, a cultured Japanese nobleman and Hideko's painting tutor and suitor. Interestingly, he's also the one who recommended Okju for this position. After a brief introduction, he retreats to his room. He sends word that he wants to see Okju, alone. Turns out that Okju isn't who she appears to be, nor is Count Fujiwara. Okju's real name is Suki, a street-smart orphan raised by Miss Boxen, notorious for selling stolen goods. She grew up surrounded by pickpockets, forgers, and con artists. Her mother was a legendary thief, and now she's following the same path. Alongside other girls taken in by Miss Boxen, she has mastered the art of deceit. Count Fujiwara, on the other hand, claims to be a Japanese noble, but in truth, he's a fraud. One day, he shows up at Okju's home with a bold plan and an offer. His target, Hideko, a wealthy, isolated heiress living under the guardianship of her uncle in a secluded estate. He plans to seduce her, marry her, inherit her fortune, then lock her away in a mental hospital. To pull it off, he needs someone close to her, someone she can trust. That's where Suki comes in. She agrees to the scheme. Her role is to enter the household as a handmaiden, win the lady's trust, and quietly nudge her toward falling for the count. In return, she'll get a share of the inheritance. For Suki and her crew, tricking a Japanese aristocrat feels like justice. It's payback for everything their people have suffered. After privately discussing their scheme, the Count gives Okju a small gift box to deliver to Hideko. Inside, there's a letter and a pair of dazzling blue spinel earrings, an elegant bait for his charade. That night at dinner, Hideko wears the earrings with a white dress, looking breathtaking. Suki, watching her from the sidelines, can't help but be drawn to her grace and poise. Later, after dinner, Hideko dresses Okju in a black gown and lets her wear the spinel earrings. The transformation is stunning. The two women share a moment that's playful, intimate, like their sisters. Okju begins to feel conflicted. She's here to con this woman, but something about her feels too genuine, too fragile. That feeling intensifies when Okju accidentally stumbles upon the Count and Hideko kissing in the woods. The sight unsettles her in a way she doesn't expect. She's not just surprised, she seems jealous and hurt. After the incident, Okju angrily retreats to her quarters. Later that evening, Hideko returns from her reading session and sends for her. She scolds Okju for not being there to help her undress and prepare for bed, saying the reading always leaves her tense and exhausted. Okju apologizes, explaining that she had fallen asleep. That night, Hideko asks Okju to stay beside her. Nervous and vulnerable, she confesses that the Count proposed to her, but she doesn't know how to respond. She asks Suki, bluntly, if she has any experience with men, and if she can teach her what he might expect from her. Driven by desire and instinct, she leans in and kisses her. The moment quickly escalates into something neither of them expected. They surrender to each other, blurring the lines between servant and mistress, between duty and longing. They end up sleeping together to their heart's content. The next day, the Count grows bolder, convinced that the kiss has won Hideko over. He makes advances at her, but Okju, now fiercely protective, always steps in. Furious, the Count reminds her of their deal. Torn between loyalty and love, Okju agrees to keep playing her part, but warns him not to push her any further, or she might lose interest for good. That night, she urges Hideko to accept the proposal. Her reasoning is conflicted but heartfelt. The sooner Hideko marries, the sooner the plan ends, and she'll be safe from the Count's grasp. But Hideko seems unfazed. She says she's already content, as long as Okju stays by her side. Then Hideko asks, what if she's in love with someone else? Caught off guard, Okju deflects and insists again that she marry the Count, and that he's the one she loves. The response stings. It's not what Hideko hoped for. Hurt and frustrated, she slaps Okju across the face and throws her out of the room. The next day, Hideko agrees to marry Count Fujiwara. He's elated and begins making arrangements immediately. With Okju's help, she sneaks out of the estate while Uncle Kuzuki is away. Together, they flee Korea and elope to Japan. During the journey, Okju keeps looking at Hideko, longing, hesitant. Okju notices but says nothing. Her heart says one thing. Her mission says another. She's caught between a web she never imagined. In a rundown shrine tucked away in the Japanese countryside, Hideko and Count Fujiwara exchange vows. There are no guests, no blessings, only strategy. For Okju, now watching from the sidelines, it feels like the final act of betrayal she helped orchestrate. That night, she helps Hideko prepare the bed for her first night. There's a thick silence between them, with so many unspoken feelings. Hideko leans in for one last kiss, but Okju turns away to avoid getting caught. She walks away. She lies in the room next to Hideko's, her heart breaking as she listens to the moans from the next room, the Count claiming the woman she loves. By morning, Okju checks in on Hideko. But the sight before her leaves a bitter taste. Whatever happened between Hideko and the Count is done, and there's no undoing it. All Okju can do now is wait for Fujiwara to finalize the marital settlements and claim the inheritance they schemed so long for. Moments later, Okju brings a dress for Hideko, but Hideko refuses, feeling there's no reason to dress up when she has nowhere to go and nothing to look forward to. Instead, she suggests they play their usual game, Okju pretending to be the heiress while she plays the maid. Hideko and Okju soon notice that the innkeeper is monitoring them. She's been assigned by Count Fujiwara to keep watch, just in case they want to escape. Eventually, the Count returns, smug and triumphant, carrying a bag filled with jewelry and cash. The plan is a success. Okju takes her cut, but her heart isn't in it. What once felt like a clever con now feels like something far more tragic. In the evening, they head to the mental hospital. Okju walks beside Hideko, trying to save her one last moment before it all ends. But as they approach the building, a piercing scream echoes from inside, causing Hideko to freeze. Fear flashes across her face. She pulls away from Okju and steps back. Then, to Okju's shock, the doctors move toward her, addressing her as Hideko. Confused, she insists she's not the heiress, but no one listens. Dressed in fine clothes and with Hideko quietly affirming that she's the heiress, the deception holds. Stunned and horrified, Okju watches as the Count and Hideko stand by, saying nothing. The doctor sees her. She struggles, shouting that it's a mistake, but it's too late. She's been betrayed. Caught in the very scam she helped create, Okju is dragged into the same mental hospital they once planned for Hideko. Everything was going according to plan, until it wasn't. Because the real twist? Okju was never the only one pretending. To see how deep this goes, let's look back. Way back. Hideko never had a childhood. Her mother died shortly after she was born. With no father around, she was left in the care of her uncle, Kuzuki, a Korean man who married into the family and quickly became her legal guardian. But Kuzuki isn't just eccentric. He's twisted. An obsessive collector of rare books. Kuzuki's true passion lies in a much darker niche, erotic literature. And not just any kind, he collects the kind with sadistic, pornographic texts and images. Since she was 5, Hideko's so-called reading lessons were anything but innocent. Her uncle would force her to read explicit material aloud in disturbing tones and postures, grooming her under the guise of education. These rehearsals weren't private. He used them to train her for wealthy guests, secret auctions where she would perform public readings of these obscene books to twisted collectors. Before her, it was her aunt who bore this burden. She too was forced to perform at these perverse gatherings. But when Kuzuki discovered she was planning to escape, he dragged her to a hidden torture chamber beneath the house, a basement lined with shelves and shadows. No one heard from her again until she was found hanging from the cherry tree outside. He tortured her to death and made it seem like she committed suicide. From that moment, Hideko took over. Every word she read, every line she recited, she did so under the threat of violence. Kuzuki not only groomed her to be a showpiece, he also intended to marry her one day and keep the wealth in the family. This was the world Count Fujiwara walked into. He happens to also be one of the perverted guests who attend the readings. When he first approached Kuzuki, he posed as a Japanese aristocrat and skilled painter. Kuzuki hired him to forge artworks, making copies of the rare books he couldn't part with while selling the pirated copies. Over time, Fujiwara convinced him to let him tutor Hideko in painting. But the more time he spent with her, the more he realized he had miscalculated. He came expecting a fragile, naive girl, easy to deceive and marry for her inheritance. Instead, he found someone far colder and far sharper than he ever imagined. There was never a chance of Hideko falling for Count Fujiwara. He knew it. Realizing that winning Hideko over was impossible, the Count changes tactics. Instead of seducing her, he lets her in on the plan. He offers a way out of her pitiable life, a chance to escape her uncle's grip and live on her own terms. In return, he wants half of her inheritance. But Hideko is hesitant. She fears her uncle too much. She's convinced that no matter where she runs, he'll find her and drag her to the same basement where he once took her aunt. To ease her fear, the Count gives her a small vial of opium. If the plan fails, she'll at least have one last choice, to die on her own terms, before ever letting her uncle take her alive to that sick basement. He laid out his plan in full. He would bring in a naive girl to serve as her new handmaiden. That girl would believe she was part of a con to help Fujiwara steal Hideko's inheritance. But the real twist? When the time came, Hideko would switch identities with the handmaiden. The girl would be declared insane and carted off to a mental hospital in Hideko's place, leaving the heiress free at last. Fujiwara would get the money, Hideko would get her freedom, and the handmaiden would disappear. It was a flawless plan, cruel, but clean. Hideko agreed. From the moment Okju arrived at the mansion, everything Hideko did was part of the setup. Right from the night Okju arrived. She played the part of the fragile, lonely heiress who had never seen the outside world, flaunted her gowns and jewels, and acted naive. All of it was designed to lull Okju into confidence. Fujiwara instructed Hideko not to fall for him, just flirt enough to keep Okju busy pushing the romance. But something neither of them expected happened. Hideko and Okju started falling for each other. Their connection was slow, cautious, then all-consuming. By the time Hideko slapped Okju that night, she was already at the edge of her own despair. After Okju left her room, Hideko went to the cherry tree, the same place where her aunt had ended her life, and nearly did the same. But Okju found her just in time. Through tears and fear, Okju confessed everything: the scam, the deception, and most of all, her true feelings. And to her surprise, Hideko didn't recoil. Instead, she admitted her own truth. She had known all along, and she had feelings too. From that moment, everything changed. Together, they decided to take control. They plotted an escape without Count Fujiwara's knowledge. Before escaping the mansion, Okju had angrily destroyed Kuzuki's grotesque library, every last one of the twisted books that had haunted Hideko's life. Then, they continued playing their roles, pretending to follow Fujiwara's plan. On the journey from Korea to Japan, they acted like perfect co-conspirators. Fujiwara none the wiser. Even the blood-stained wedding bed was a trick, stained with blood from Hideko cutting herself to sell the illusion. They had it all perfectly planned out. Inside the institution, Okju starts a fire and slips away during the chaos. Meanwhile, unaware he'd been played, Count Fujiwara takes Hideko out for an extravagant dinner to celebrate their success. In a lavish hotel room, he proposed for real. But Hideko, now fully in control, seduced him with a soft smile and a glass of wine she had drugged with some drops of the opium he had given her. As he drifts into unconsciousness, she takes the money and leaves. She meets Okju outside, just as they'd planned. Back at the mansion, Uncle Kuzuki, having seen that Hideko is gone and his priceless library is in ruins, sends his men to find Count Fujiwara, suspecting betrayal. They find him at the hotel just as he awakens from sleep and take him back to the estate. Kuzuki chains him in the basement, the same grim room where Kuzuki had once tortured Hideko's aunt. He tortures Fujiwara, wanting answers. But Fujiwara has one final trick. Knowing he isn't leaving that basement alive, he asks for a last smoke. Kuzuki obliges. From his case, Fujiwara chooses a green cigarette, one of 3 he'd laced with mercury. As the smoke fills the room, the mercury gas kills them both. Far from the madness, Okju and Hideko are already gone. They use fake identities and escape to Shanghai. Now, the inheritance is theirs. Their past lives, the lies, the pain, the prison, are behind them now. For the first time, they are truly free, and they're happy to be together, with no fear of the unknown. If you made it this far, you already know this isn't your average love story. It's layered, dangerous, and unforgettable. If you enjoy bold storytelling, shocking twists, and beautiful chaos, hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more dark, seductive stories coming your way. You won't want to miss what's next.